Hello, you guys. I'm back for another lesson, and I hope it's going to be a fun one today. We are going to play Name That Text Structure, and we are going to deal today with informational text, which in my last lesson we were talking more about fictional text like literature and stories and things like that. This is going to be more about informational text. This is 6th grade ELA. And I'm Mrs. Court, and this is the Sun Devil Learning Labs. Okay, so let's check out our next slide, which is all about what we're doing today. So to break it down, we're going to go over our objectives, and they are as follows. So you can read the objectives along with me. The first one says, I can identify the text structure of an informational text. And the second one says I can analyze how a particular sentence fits into the structure of a text and contributes to the development of the ideas. Okay, so that's what we're focusing on today, and let's get started. This is our fun game board that's going to reveal a lot of different secrets today. It's got a lot of things hidden in it, and it's going to be really fun to go through. And so when we're going to start out here with the start, that's where we always start, right? Let's see what we know, okay? So let's get those brains going. Got our little emoji girl. I think that's supposed to be me. And she's thinking. So she says, what do you know about informative or nonfiction text structures? What do you know about them? Anything? So we talked about with fictional texts, we talked about plot elements and kind of that mountain, right? The way that stories are kind of organized. We have our beginning, our middle, and our end, and we have everything in between. We have the exposition, the rising action, the climax, the falling action, the resolution. So that's more of like your fictional story text. So what do we know about informative or nonfiction text? What different kinds of texts are there? That's kind of what we are going to dive into today. So if you remember anything at all about it, that might help you. If not, we're going to talk about it. So, oops. Okay, so let's go to our arrow here, back to the game board. So the beginning of this was just to jog our memories, just to see what's going on, okay? Now let's click here and see what we've got. Oops, I think it went one too far. Okay. Yep. Okay, so this is what we want. This is where we're going to also jog our memory. See our little lady here jogging? So let's go over the idea of structure, okay? So a structure is a building or framework, and a text structure refers to how a piece of text is built, okay? How it's built, how it's put together. Writers will use different structures to build their ideas. Each of the text structures communicates the ideas in a different way. So every piece of text is written for a certain purpose. And we have to figure out what that purpose is and be able to you know, notice the parts of it, right? And how they all fit together to build that structure. Okay? All right, so back to our drawing board. Now we know a little bit about structure and text structure and the purpose of text structure, okay? So we're gonna go to our first little example here. Our first little spot on the game board is this mouth. Now, does anybody have, like, does this mouth make you think of any type of text structure that we could possibly be talking about? Anyone who might know a little something about text structures? What would a mouth be talking about right here? Let's see. So this is our first kind of text structure, our first type. So this is the description, okay? Description text, informative text. The definition is the text provides details or characteristics of a topic, okay? So the clues, we have clues to tell us if we're talking about description. And I completely glossed over our materials, but what our materials are for today, and of course you can pause the video during this slide right now and run and grab a piece of paper and a pen if you want to take notes. We actually don't have to, but if you would like to take notes, you can write down these little graphs that we're going to go over, these graphic organizers, and it may be helpful to you in the future. So if you'd like, go ahead and pause the video now and run and grab a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, and then you can feel free to take notes. So the clues that tell us if we're dealing with the description are as follows. See, they could be examples, it could be a visualization, there's going to be describing words or details. Okay, so that's description. This text will usually begin with a description of something. Okay, so it might be a place, a person, or a thing. It might be describing. Okay, this graphic organizer on the side is a real popular one for description because your topic could go in the middle, and then what you can do is as you read the text, you fill in these bubbles on the outside with all of those details. So think of it as your center is your topic, and then all those details follow all around in those little circles. So if you want to make one of these graphic organizers on your own, feel free to do so. And they're great to use anytime that you're dealing with informational text. Okay, so back to our game board, and we are going to look at an example of description. Okay, so we'll read through this together. You can read aloud if you'd like. Coral snakes are distinguished by their red, yellow, white, and black colored banding. Most species are there's a typo there. Most species are small in size. North American species average around 3 feet in length, but specimens of up to 5 feet or slightly larger have been reported. Okay. So this is what a description would look like. It's going to start out by letting you know what it's talking about, and then it's going to have descriptive words, and it's going to describe something. In this case, coral snakes, right? Lots of description. So if we look at this little magnifying glass here, we're going to have some clues as to how we know this is a description piece. Okay? These are our clues. So if we were going along and we were going to have to tell somebody what makes this a description, we would say, well, right here, we've underlined red, yellow, white, black colored banding. That's a description of the snake. Small in size, that's another description. 3 feet in length, that's pretty descriptive. And then talking about them getting up to 5 feet or slightly larger. So these are all things that we can tell we are talking about describing something. Okay, so I hope you see how that works. We have an example, and now we have our clues. We've underlined our clues. Why is this a description? Okay. So we have finished with that box right there. So now we can move on to the next one. And we're going to start with the photo. Anything you can think, any type of informational text that you think we might be going to jump into right here. Based on this picture, apples and oranges, what kind of text do you think we're going to talk about now? Take a guess. All right, let's click on our apples and oranges. We're talking about compare and contrast. Okay, we just talked about description. Now compare and contrast. Okay, definition is the text states similarities and differences between people, places, or things. Similarities and differences. Okay, the clues are there are always 2 or more things being discussed. You have to have at least 2 people, places, or things to compare and contrast. Okay, so that's a little clue that you might have. If you're talking about, say, animals, if you're going to compare a Labrador Retriever to a Golden Retriever, those are 2 types of dogs. You need to have at least the 2 types of dogs in order to compare and contrast. Words like both, similar, different, have in common, or on the other hand. Those are words you might see in the text that's going to tell you, oh, they're comparing something or contrasting something, okay? So this is a little graphic organizer here, and it is actually going to compare and contrast apples and oranges. So we have oranges on this side, apples on this side, and the in-between shows what they share. What is similar about them? They're both fruit, they both grow on trees, and they both give juice. That we know about both. And what about oranges? They have their own characteristics that are individual to them. They have a thick peel, they're tropical, they came from India, they're a citrus fruit. Those things we can say are not about apples, right? And then apples have a thin skin, moderate to subtropical climate, and they're red, green, or yellow in color. So I hope you see how that graphic organizer really helps with compare and contrast. We have the similarities in the middle that they share, and the differences here. Compare and contrast. So make sure you put that in your notes if you are taking notes on at least what types of informational text we're talking about today. So we have description, and now we have compare and contrast, okay? And then we're going to look at this little clue, okay? 1 second here. Okay, this is the one we're supposed to go to first. So we're finding the clue words in this informational text, okay? Have you ever heard the saying, it's apples to oranges? This refers to the fact that apples and oranges are significantly different. Though they are both fruit, they are not the same. Both do grow on trees, but in different climates. Both fruits are covered in skin. Apples have a thinner skin compared to oranges and their tough skin. While we are talking about skin, one is smooth and the other is rough and kind of bumpy. Oranges are a citrus fruit and apples are not. Both fruits are a good source of fiber. Those citrus fruits do offer more vitamin C. That's a good write-up about apples and oranges, isn't it? So let's go ahead and jump to this one. So we're going to find the clue words that tell us this is a compare and contrast piece. So as we start looking along, I have highlighted here the clue words. And so as we go along, we see words like significantly different, both, not the same. There's both again. But is the same as saying like, however. So we're going to say like these are the same, but they're not, you know. Different, there's both again, compared to, other, and though. Those are good indicators that you are dealing with a compare and a contrast piece. So those are your clue words. Hope you liked the little story I wrote about apples and oranges. No. Okay. Sorry about that. We skipped ahead a couple slides. This little game board is fun, but it's complicated. So now with this right here, what is this a picture of? Anybody know what our next type of informational text is going to be based on that picture? It's a timeline, right? So what does a timeline represent? What does it represent? Let's see what's underneath. Chronological and sequence. So we have, this is a type of informational text. So if you're writing notes, go ahead and write down chronological and sequence, and we're going to learn all about it. Chronological order outlines a specific time order of events, okay? And sequence outlines a list of steps in a procedure. The clues that we look for to tell us that we're dealing with chronological or sequence are specific dates and times, and also steps like first, next, later, then, and finally. Okay, chronological and sequence. So we want to see an example of chronological and sequence. And this is just going to not let me do it. So, this is a story or a little writing, if you will, about, this is going to show us sequence. Okay, how to make scrambled eggs. To make scrambled eggs, you have to first take 3 or 4 eggs out of the fridge. You will then need to crack the eggs into a bowl, being very careful not to get shells in them. Next, you will beat the eggs with a wire whisk or a fork. You can then add a little milk and beat them a little longer. After that, you will heat your skillet up over medium heat. You will then want to add a small amount of butter to the skillet and melt it. Next, add your beaten eggs to the skillet. Finally, you will cook them, stirring often until they are firm and not wet anymore. Enjoy. So what I want you to do with the sequence is see if you can pick out those key words that we just talked about. So words like then, next, right? So you could pause the video at this time and highlight, or well, you won't be able to highlight, but you'll be able to write them down. The clue words that tell you that this is a sequence. So go ahead and work and then start the video when you're ready. Okay, so we're going to check and see how well we did on finding our clue words. Okay. Okay, there's our scrambled eggs. And all the words highlighted are our clue words as to sequence. So we have right here highlighted the word first, we have then, we have next, we have then again, after that, then, next, and finally. So that tells us we're dealing with a sequence. And a good example of a sequence is any recipe that you see. Any procedure, a how-to, if you're going to try to build something, put something together, Legos, okay, every Lego comes with a Lego instruction book. That's going to be sequence. It's going to follow an exact little procedure, right? So sequence is an important one when we're looking at following directions and things like that. This is just not letting me do things the way I want to. So let's see, back to our game board. And we're going to look at chronological. Okay, so now we have, this is a story that we're going to read that's in chronological order. We left for vacation early in the morning. We had packed the night before so we could leave as early as possible. We drove until 10 and stopped for our first bite to eat. When we got back in the car, I fell asleep and woke up 2 hours later in a different town. We then arrived at our destination 3 hours after that. Finally, now it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I was starving again. We can go eat once we get settled in our hotel room. Okay. So, same thing here. I would like you to pause the video here and write down any of those words that make you think of chronological. Remember, we had that timeline up at the beginning that talks about chronological. So write down any of the keywords you think have to do with chronological. What tells you this is a chronological piece? Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, say 2 minutes, and then we'll continue. Okay, so we are going to look at our piece that is going to give us our answers for chronological. Okay, So this story is the same story, but it has all those keywords highlighted. Okay, so we left in the morning. Morning is highlighted. Night before, that tells a time, right? When did they pack? The night before. They drove until 10 a.m. Okay. 2 hours later, that gives you a time. Then, that's kind of one of those like, then this happened. 3 hours after. Now it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so I hope you can see how those words help you identify chronological order. Chronological, think of your timelines and you'll be okay. Okay, so that was chronological and sequence. So now we've gone over description, compare and contrast, chronological and sequence. So there's 3 types we've gone over. So we've completed these 3 squares right here. Okay, so we are better than halfway around the board now. So what do you think this here, this little photo right here indicates that we're going to learn about now? Lots of question marks, and it says the word solution. Okay, so the question marks we have down here are, they also have the word solution in them. So let's see what piece of text we're talking about. So I have my little puzzle pieces that fit together here. And we are going to talk about problem and solution. That's another type of text structure. So some pieces are written to explain a problem and then give a solution or more than one solution. So that's what it says right here. Text gives information about a problem, then gives one or more solutions. Your keywords are problem and solution, and then your synonyms for the word problem. So if you're reading a piece and you can't decide if it's a problem and solution, because maybe it doesn't say the word problem and solution, there are other words it might have in there. So words like dilemma, challenge, hurdle, struggle, difficulty, worry, threat, uncertainty, and trouble. Those are words that are the same as problem. So if you see those words, you might be dealing with a problem solution piece. And the synonyms for solution can be the word answer, action, possibility, hope, future, and solve. So if you see any of those, probably talking about solutions to a problem, right? Okay, so that's our problem and solution. Now we're going to look at some clues about it. So let's look at the clue, see if I clicked on the right one. Okay. I think I was supposed to go to my example first. This is a little video that I'm gonna have you watch first about problem and solution. Once it decides to go, just like in class, right? Sometimes technology takes its time.
Hello, readers. Talk about structure. When architects and engineers design a building, one of the considerations they have to make is structural support. How's this thing gonna stay upright? How do we make sure it doesn't blow over in the wind or collapse in an earthquake? And so they say, okay, maybe we'll put reinforcing steel.
Okay, so stick with me because I'm gonna fast forward it to the problem and solution part of the video, because we just want to watch the problem and solution. Okay, I have to remember exactly where it was, so just stay with me. Here we are. Okay, should begin playing.
Problem and solution. In this kind of text structure, the author describes a problem and then explains how that problem was solved. So imagine you want pizza, but you can't have traditional pizza because you're a celiac. You can't have wheat. Necessity is the mother of invention. Enter the cauliflower crust pizza made from cooked cauliflower, cheese, and a variety of gluten-free flours. All right, so what was the problem? You can't eat wheat and pizza dough is made of wheat. How do you solve that problem? By making pizza crust out of cauliflower, which I promise tastes better than it sounds. Finally, description. This is sort of like an encyclopedia entry that explains basic information about a topic, like an explainer piece about what pizza is. I'm going to read this as though I have never heard of pizza before. Pizza,
Okay, so we watched our little Khan Academy video. I just love Khan Academy. I think he explains things so well. And now we're going to have our little activity, okay? So I have my, if it would work for me. Okay, let's try to write a problem with 3 or more solutions, and we need to state our problem first, okay? So with your note, your paper or your notebook, we can begin to think about a problem. So let's see. Our problem is going to be bullying, okay? So we need to write together a problem solution piece that has at least three solutions, okay? So you can pause the video at this time and you can do this on your own as practice and really to gear up for this part of the lesson, this learning about problem and solution text. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and pause it now and you can work on this. Try to come up with 3 solutions to bullying, write them out. You need to state your problem first, and then go ahead and hit play when you are ready to finish with the lesson. Okay, so bullying. This is our problem and solution piece, okay? So what we did here was, the problem is, hold on, just 1 second. Okay, so let's read through this together because this is a piece that I wrote that gives us some solutions to bullying. That's our problem. So let's start reading. It's never easy to witness someone being bullied or be the one being bullied. One thing that can stop bullying behavior is educating ourselves on bullying. If someone is being bullied, kids can use simple phrases like, hey, that's over the line, or whatever. These phrases are sometimes enough to diffuse the situation. Another strategy is to simply change the subject. This will take the focus off of the bullying behavior. Sometimes a person can scatter the crowd by saying things like, hey guys, we need to hurry and get to class. Humor can also be used in a tense situation to change the focus. Tell a joke. In the event of any type of bullying behavior, adults need to be notified. Kids can reach out to a parent, a teacher, a school administrator, or the State Department of Education. Sometimes the simple act of standing with the person being bullied makes a strong statement to the bully. Okay, so we have our piece, and what I've done is go ahead and highlight all of my solutions, all of my pieces to this. The first thing highlighted is our problem. Okay, so right here, this is problem stated at the beginning, and that's pointing to that very first sentence that tells us the problem, and that is bullying, right? Okay, and then we have in the body of our writing, we have possible solutions, okay? So we have one up here where it says one thing, we can, educating ourselves on bullying. That's one possible solution. Another one is this one here that says if someone is being bullied, you can just say like, hey, that's over the line or whatever, just blow them off. That's another solution. This one that's highlighted says that a person can scatter the crowd by saying, hey guys, we got to get to class, right? Sometimes that's enough to just get in there and just break up that crowd. Everybody goes to class, right? And the incident is over, okay? This one talks about humor being used. So funny, telling jokes, being funny. And down here, we're talking about standing with the person being bullied. So you can see we have a lot more than 3. We have at least 5 here. I think there's another one in there that I did not get an arrow pointed to, but those are our possible solutions. So we can totally see how problem and solution works. Okay. So what we can do now is go back to our game board. It should take us right back. So we did our video and we did our example. So now we are, here we go. We've done this one, we've done this one. So we have description, cause and effect, chronological and sequence, now problem and solution. Any guesses on what the final piece of text structure is? We have a picture clue here. Looks like a tornado. Anybody have any clues what the last of the 5 text structures that we're going over? Let's click on that tornado and see what it says. Cause and effect. And here we have another tornado. And look at that tornado. Look at the effect that tornado is having on that cow. The wind from the tornado. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the differences between affect and effect. Okay? So when you have an A in the word affect, we're talking about a verb. Okay? That's an action word. We're talking about to influence or produce a change in. Okay, so that is an actual, it's an action. It's something doing something to something else. So the example that I gave was the tornado that is coming our way is going to affect our barbecue plans. Okay, so that tornado is going to affect something, right? The barbecue. Effect or effect has an E in it, and it is a noun. So this is an actual thing. This is something that is the result of an action. Okay? So the example I gave here is basically the same sentence up here, but let's see how it changes when we put the word effect in there. The tornado that is coming our way is going to have an effect on our barbecue plans. Okay? See the difference? One says it's going to affect. The other one says it's going to have an effect. So one is a verb, one is a noun. So I wanted to clear up the confusion because I think still to this day I struggle when I'm writing which one am I supposed to put there, and I really have to stop and think about it. So I hope that, you know, if you want to take those down in your notes, you will, because it's something that I think we just have to figure out a way to remember it because it's always a struggle. Is it affect? Is it effect? Okay, we're talking about cause and effect. So we are talking about the results of an action, and that action is the cause. Okay, so how one event leads to another. Cause and effect describes an event, which is the cause, and the effects that follow. And the clues are cause, effect, as a result, consequently, and so. Those are going to be your clue words so that you know you're dealing with a cause and effect. Okay. Now we're going to look at an example, which again, my examples are just, hold up one second. Okay, so this is our example. And we've got a passage here that already has some highlighting done. It's got some arrows pointing to it, and we're going to figure out why that is. So let's read through this example. I should have known that I would get grounded. When I told my mom that I would not be cleaning my room today, she did not take it well. I guess I should have expected she would take my phone away. She also said that Ryder couldn't come over later like he was going to. I definitely should have predicted she would make me clean my room anyway. On top of cleaning my room, I had to unload the dishwasher. She said that if I didn't want to get grounded, I should think about that next time. I really miss my video games too. Okay, so we just have all these pieces of this. So let's go ahead and see what's next here. I'm gonna go ahead and move myself. So we have the word cause and we have an arrow pointing to something. So let's see. When I told my mom that I would not be cleaning my room today, she did not take it well. So what do we think the cause in this is? The arrow's pointing to this. So basically, this child told their mom, I'm not cleaning my room today. Do you think that might be the cause that set everything else in motion? Okay, so it sounds like a lot of these we're talking about punishments maybe, having privileges taken away because he or she refused to clean their room. Okay, so now we have effects. Okay, so we have this word effect here, and we are talking about all of these arrows coming from the word effect. So one of the effects is, I should have known that I would get grounded. That's an effect. That is something that is the result of the cause. Okay. I guess I should have expected she would take my phone away. That's an effect. So that's something that happens. It's cause of the result. She also said that Ryder couldn't come over later like he was going to. So his friend couldn't come over and play. That's an effect. On top of cleaning my room, I had to unload the dishwasher. There's another effect, another punishment that they got because of their grounding, right? And I really miss my video games too. That is also an effect. So you can see how this up here was the cause of all of the other things that happened in this child's day, right? So cause and effect. Maybe we have a little good grasp on the cause and effect. So now we have our exit out of this game. So this is our wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed the little game board style lesson. It was a little bit touchy for me, but I think we made it through. So these are our objectives we were going to work on today to see if we met them. Let's see if we understand them a little better. So the first one, I can identify the text structure of an informational text. So we can, right? We know the 5 main ones. We have our problem solution, cause and effect, compare contrast, description. Hold on one second. I do apologize. My kids are here too, so they come in sometimes. Made me lose my train of thought. But we have our 5. We have our description, our compare and contrast, our chronological and sequence, our cause and effect, and our problem and solution. Those are identifying the text structure of informational text, those 5. Okay, and then the second one is I can analyze how a particular sentence fits into the structure of a text and contributes to the development of the ideas. So that's going to be our little descriptions of each type of text structure. So when we go through those clue words, and we can actually sit down with a piece of text and we can analyze it, and we can pick out those keywords like we did through this whole lesson. We wrote our problem and solution piece. We know what parts have to be in that problem and solution, and we know what kind of words to use if we're going to write a recipe, right? That's our sequence. That's going to be those words like first, then, next, finally. So that is analyzing how a particular sentence fits into the structure of the text. Okay? I hope you're feeling confident about these 2 objectives, and the next time you see this in school, you will be like, I remember that lesson because it was fun and it taught us a lot in a little short amount of time. Okay? If you can remember those top 5 text structures, you're going to be that much further ahead. So thanks for being here today. It's always awesome to get to work with you guys. Thanks for working so hard, and we'll see you at the next lesson.